Hello and welcome to a business show with a difference. We're in Tanzania, near the city Arusha, and people come here from all over the world to watch the wildlife. But there's another story to tell here, and it's one of business and economic growth. Last year, Tanzania's economy grew by 7%. Not far from here, in Arusha, the African Development Bank is holding its annual meetings. Those meetings bring together politicians and business people from across the African continent, and it's a good place to gauge Africa's economic mood. Coming up in the show, from the coffee plant to a cup of joe, we look at the health of the coffee industry on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. We speak to the head of the African Development Bank about the challenges ahead for the continent's economies. Plus, a look at how mobile banking is boosting African business. We're on the slopes of Kilimanjaro, fertile farming ground, and there are thousands of coffee farms spread around the landscape. Small ones and big ones like this one. Agriculture stands for around 1/3 of Tanzania's GDP, and it employs around 80% of the workforce. The problem, though, for growers here and elsewhere is the fact that global coffee prices are coming down and the sector is under pressure. It's a yearly ritual that ends in your coffee mug. Pickers have come looking for work at the Burka coffee plantation during harvest season near Arusha. Many of them have been coming for years to earn around €1 a day.
That's all I have to feed the kids, and sometimes I have to cut back on food to pay for school books and clothes.
Burka coffee is among the largest plantations in the region, but 9 out of 10 coffee farms in Tanzania are small and family-owned. Whatever the size, they depend on international markets. Prices have tumbled more than 40% in the past year as coffee-gulping economies in the West are under pressure.
As farmers, we don't have a choice. We look at how the markets develop, but we don't have any other place to go. So we sell in the same way as always.
Coffee goes through several stages before being poured into mugs around the world. Cherries are picked and pulped, and the beans inside are washed, dried, sorted and put into bags. It's a costly process, and low rainfall last year led to smaller than average harvests. Along with prices, it's one of many headaches.
The small farmers cannot create a factory like this one, cannot build up their own factory because they have to draw a huge capital from the financial institution, and that will mean high interest rates, which at the end of the day they cannot break even, they cannot make business.
Tanzanian coffee growers represent only 1% of the global coffee market, leaving them with little influence on prices. Their only option to get a premium is to raise quality, which takes effort and expertise.
We have tried to ameliorate all those variations that you see in the field, coming about through weather, processing, in such a way that we offer our buyers a cup of coffee year in, year out.
It piles on the pressure for Burka Coffee, which supplies major brands like Illy and Starbucks. There's no margin of error come rain or shine. Right, that was a look at business here in the Arusha region, and we have come into the city now where the African Development Bank is holding its annual meetings, and we have the opportunity to sit down with that organization's president, Donald Kaberuka. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. My first question is, there seems to be a lot of buzz around Africa and particularly about African growth rates at the moment. Is this Africa's time in the global economy?
That is no longer controversial. That Africa is rising, that a corner has been turned, that there's a new momentum is now a common narrative. However, I must throw in a note of caution. The note of caution is that we should never confuse economic growth and economic transformation. Economic transformation happens when you export sophisticated products on the basis of innovation and diversification.
And Africa and African economies, they're not there just yet.
The structure of the economy is still very much dependent on primary commodity exports. So the transition from that mode of production to one where you are exporting sophisticated products is work in progress.
Now, if we look closer at the climate for business in Africa, we've been speaking to local business people here in the Arusha region, And they, for instance, complain about the fact that it's difficult and expensive to get hold of bank loans, to get hold of credit. What can you do about that?
You are right that in terms of the financial depth, we're still having issues. And it's one of the programs of the bank to ensure that the business people can access credit, that we can increase the rate of banking among the ordinary people. It is not an easy one, but technology is now making it very easy. Here in this region, mobile banking has exploded because it has cut down transaction costs. It increased the knowledge platform between the banks and the clients. And that is a particular area we're keen to pursue further.
Now, one of the priorities for the African Development Bank is infrastructure. And no pun intended, but there is still a long road ahead for infrastructure such as roads and railroads in Africa.
Here in this region, poor infrastructure can add up to 40% of the cost of exports. And so it is clear to us that you have to begin at that point reducing the cost for business people, both nationally and regionally. I was giving an example just now that here in East Africa, we have participated in the construction of submarine cables in the Indian Ocean, which have reduced the cost of connectivity by 90%. By 90%. That's a huge saving for businesses, for schools, for service delivery.
Donald Kaberuka, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. A lack of infrastructure and credit may be weighing down development here in Tanzania, but we've come to this local market in Arusha for a closer look at a business that's helping to remedy that. People here, they're using ordinary money to buy and sell goods such as vegetables and spices, but more and more, they're also using their mobile phones. Mobile banking has exploded in Tanzania and in other African countries in recent years, and it's opening up the markets for financial services. Hustle and bustle on Kilombero Market in Arusha, but the wheeling and dealing stretches well beyond the city's limits. Mohammed Hassan Chaya has sold a lot of onions to a customer almost 500 kilometers away, but he's heading for the nearest mobile phone shop to get paid.
I have onions in the market, and someone wants the onion, and that guy, maybe he will be in Dar es Salaam. So I take the onion to Dar es Salaam, then that man send money to me by using M-Pesa.
M-Pesa means mobile money in Swahili, and it was brought to Tanzania by Vodacom, mobile giant Vodafone's subsidiary. Clients can deposit their cash at the nearest corner shop. Armed with just a handset, they can send or receive money, top up their mobile phone time. They can even pay their utility bills. Transactions are confirmed by a simple text message.
I give her the money, and then he put in my account. Before I go back, I have to confirm if I have any message in my phone.
Only 7% of Tanzania's population has access to formal banking. Nearly 1 in 4 is an M-Pesa subscriber, though, around 9 million people. It may boost business, but it's sparked concern that mobile banking and ordinary banking follow different rules.
What's happening now is the two regulators, the TCRA and the Bank of Tanzania, actually working together to harmonize and come up with an appropriate framework that will actually regulate and ensure that these transactions are not used for things like terrorist financing or money laundering.
A pressing issue considering that Kenya, Algeria and Sudan have even higher mobile banking rates than Tanzania. And rival networks Airtel and Tigo want their piece of the pie. And with that look at mobile banking, we're going to wrap up this program. And don't forget that you can get more news on our website, france24.com. Goodbye from Arusha, or kwaherini, as they say in Swahili.